on that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Brother Tom?
Actually, Chris called me last night, and I told him I would have been more than happy to take those out for him. So, so actually, I don't have the testimony. I do have a testimony, but we've asked Joel Allen to give his testimony this morning of how God has had a hand in healing him. Would you share that with us, Brother?
Sure, yes. Good morning. Number of you have been praying for me, and I want to thank you for that. Back in August of last year, in September, I noticed my health suddenly became different. I usually was very active, and I became tired and weak. And during the time of our move, it was increasing. I would find myself becoming dizzy and with headaches and a stomach ache. By the time we moved here, Colville, on the 9th, I was sent over to the emergency room of the hospital with such pain that I'd never experienced in my abdomen. That happened twice. I would go over there again. I would be crawling on the ground just trying to get in. And it was my wife. I felt bad because I kept her up so much and because of the pain. And as time progressed, I noticed that the headaches increased, the dizziness, and the blurred vision. The stomach pain was becoming constant up in the upper abdomen. And so they did I believe they had a CAT scan, and they noticed that I needed to have an endoscopy because they saw that my area in my abdomen was becoming inflamed. So went over to the VA hospital, and from there they started doing multiple tests. And the doctor that looked at my results when I went to see him told me, he says, "You don't look good at all. And by what I'm seeing on your testing," he right away says, "Do you have a church family?" I says, "Yes." "Do you have support?" I says, "Yes." "Because you're going to need it." And right then and there, I knew something was wrong. And it kind of scared me. And so from there, I began doing other tests. And the friends that I have, we called and told them to please pray for me. And we had Pam's folks, her siblings, my children. They went all the way to, we had friends in Philippines, and they started praying for me. And so as time went on, my weight started to be really lessening. I became right down to the point where I would lose probably 30 to 35 pounds in a 2.5-month period. And my eyesight was getting to the point where I was going cross-eyed at periods of time. I would go to a store with Pam, and I would lose her somewhere in the store at Costco, and I had to stop and call her because I couldn't find her. And it was very frightening in some days. At the point where I had the appointment to go and have my endoscopy and a colonoscopy, they were going to do biopsies for me. And so as I sat waiting to go in, it was so bad, the pain and the headaches. When I got out of the room after the initial testing, I had had a stroke during the process. I didn't know that until I got home because the water would fall out of my mouth. So I went to the next day to see my neurologist, and she thought that possibly I had a tumor in my brain or in my spine. And at that point, I knew I needed more help. And so I talked with Dr. Flake, I believe he's in Idaho. His son, Fleck, that's right. His son works for White Horse Ministries. He's a pastor. And so I wasn't supposed to drive for 3 weeks because I couldn't see very well. Well, I drove anyway over there to the place where they were going to do the anointing. He felt that it was necessary that I had one. And so I got there, and there was a pastor there, and Dr. Fleck, and 2 other gentlemen I knew. So it was a wonderful experience that they performed this for me. And I left soon after that, and right away my eyes were giving me problems. And I prayed, Lord, because it was getting dark. And I prayed, Lord, you promised. And immediately, I could see. And I didn't have any problem going home. So after that, they wanted to do a spinal tap and a PET scan. But after that anointing, day after day, I started feeling better. The dizziness left, the stomach pain left, and I started working out in my yard, and I had no problem. I felt really good. So I went to the PET scan, and that was fine. Then the next week, I went to do the spinal tap. The doctor, when I went in to see the doctor, he says, I'm concerned about you doing this. If you do have a tumor in your brain or in your spine, your brain will crash. And I don't want to do this right now until we know what the result of the PET scan is. So we went downstairs and talked to my primary doctor. And he got the report back, and the report says it's clear. And so I told him, I asked him first, I says, are you a religious man? He says, yes, I am. Because I had an anointing 5 weeks prior, and ever since then, the Lord has taken away every symptom that I had. And he says, when I get done here today, he told me, I'm going to go to my church, and I'm going to have a word of praise, prayer for you, thanking the Lord that he healed you. And I forgot to tell one part. It's a testimony of when I was in the hospital at the VA, there was an orderly there that came in, and I asked the Lord, how can I share you with this gentleman? And he said, tell him your story. So I asked him, would you like to hear a story? He says, yeah. So I told him my conversion story, and after that, he was quiet, and he was very attentive. And I said, you want to hear another one? He says, sure. And I told him about the angel that helped me, that saved my life. And he was very thankful because he wrote me a little note on a card the next day thanking me. And we can influence so many people by what we do for them, by praising the Lord and give him our testimony. Thank you.